flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Taylor, would you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Lyons?
Here.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Here.
Commissioner White? Here. Commissioner Orthwein? Mayor Morgan?
Here.
Let the record show that also present are the town manager, Gregory Denham, the assistant town attorney, Edward Nazaro, and the police chief, Edward Allen, and myself.
Thank you very much. We've been presented with the minutes from our last meeting of July 9th. Are there any comments, additions, changes?
Motion to approve minutes from the last regular commission meeting?
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White? Yes. Commissioner Orthwein? Yes. Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Any changes to the agenda? I believe there might be.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we would ask if our police chief could introduce the newest member to our police force at this point in time, so he can get back out and protect the town.
Absolutely.
Good morning. I'd like to introduce William Garrison. William comes to us from originally from Broward County. He worked 31 years for the Broward Sheriff's Office. Has a wealth of experience, and I think he's going to be a great asset to our department.
Well, that's great. We welcome you, Mr. Garrison.
Thank you very much.
I think you're going to enjoy working here.
Oh, I certainly will. Yes, I will.
We've got a small town, but it's very cohesive, and the police force is really a significant part of our community. So we look forward to seeing you and working with you.
I'm looking forward to it myself.
Our residents love the police, so.
That's great.
It's true. So you're on duty now?
Yes, sir.
Go get 'em.
Nice meeting you all.
Thank you.
And I believe Mr. Nazaro has a couple of changes also.
Yes, sir, Mayor. We're going to be removing under items for commission action, E, new reduction request. We're going to remove 2900 Avenue Ossaway. And then a new item after E for commission action will be a settlement of case number 2014 CA 011940, and that's so that'll be added.
Okay. Any other changes to the agenda? If not, our next regular meeting will be September 13th, but at 4 p.m. And it will be followed by a budget meeting at 5 p.m. So it will not be at 9 in the morning next month. All right, next public comment. We are very pleased to have Representative Caruso here today. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Mayor. Morning, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. How are you?
Morning.
Thank you. And residents of beautiful town of Gulfstream. It's great to be back. You know, after being in Tallahassee, I won that election, 32 votes. It probably generated in this room here. and you know, right away, 2 hours later, I was on a car ride up to Tallahassee, and 5 months later, I got back. I think there was a couple visits in between, but we were busy up there, and it's great to be back home. And you know, Gulfstream, I never lived in Gulfstream, but my kids went to Gulfstream school, and a couple of them did. I have 7 kids, and so I'm very familiar with Gulfstream, and it's just a beautiful town, and I like what you're doing with it. And you know, just over the years, it just gets better and better. So, and thanks for letting me be here today. I want to give you a brief legislative update, if I could. You know, the only thing that we are mandated to do by the Constitution of the state of Florida is to pass a budget. The House is. And we did pass a budget, $91.1 billion, and balanced budget, of course, and the governor signed it a couple months ago, which is, in that budget, the governor, let me start out with the governor, when he first got to Tallahassee, and he was newly elected, he had 3 priorities. He set the whole legislature down, and he said, we're gonna, gentlemen, ladies, we're gonna work on the environment, education, and healthcare, and our budget reflects it. We allocated in our budget $38 billion towards healthcare, which on a $91 billion budget, that's 40%. that's quite a bit. In terms of education, in healthcare, we allocated, we continued funding the healthcare program for lower income kids. We fully funded it, which was about $500 million, which is just terrific. In terms of education, we allocated $38 billion also, 24 billion, 16 billion towards pre-K to 12, and I'm pleased to say we increased spending there about almost to $800 million, which turned into an increase of $243 per student. Now, to give you a little perspective on that spending increase per student, the prior year, prior to last session, we increased spending by $40 per student. The year before that, we didn't increase spending at all. So $243, a big step towards getting our teachers, pay increases, towards improving school security, towards improving the schools themselves and the curriculum, and making sure our kids get a better education. Hopefully we can go back, do another $243 and do even better this time to really make a difference. So I'm looking forward to that. In terms of upper education, higher education, and I do serve on the higher ed committee in Tallahassee, we allocated $8.26 billion. We continued, and as a result, we continue to be, according to U.S. News, the ranked number one in the U.S. for our education program, our higher education program, number one for the third year in a row. So if you're a Florida resident, be proud of that. And if your kids are saying, hey, I want to go to Oshkosh, Wisconsin to go to school because it's the best school, we got them right here in the state of Florida. They don't have to leave the state. So keep them home. And the reason that I think we're number one is we prioritize affordability and pathways to careers. You'll see internship programs and internship programs throughout our schools and vocational training throughout our schools with the purpose of putting these young adults into jobs the moment they graduate. And that's important. I think we want to keep the debt low or eliminate school debt and get them into jobs right away. And so that's why we're ranked number one, because of that. We do get them into that. In terms of the environment, $700 million towards Everglades restoration, $33 million for Florida Forever. We continued that. We put $4.2 million for the first time towards red tide research. We know right off the beautiful beaches of Gulfstream, we had red tide last year, I believe, maybe a little bit the year before. I don't know did Gulfstream, I don't know if they shut down their beaches, but I know that we had it all up and down the Palm Beaches. So we got $4.2 million going towards that. We all know that red tide's been here since the days of Ponce de Leon. He wrote about it in his journals, and we're finally 400 years later trying to do something to figure it out why. So it only took a few centuries. Let's see, we put $50 million towards our beaches. Now I will admit most of that money went towards the Panhandle because of Hurricane Michael, and I will be working very hard to make sure we can try to get some money for funding down here for our beaches and the Palm Beaches this year. It's one of my goals. And they said, every leadership told me, Mike, wait till next year. We got to take care of the Panhandle right now, Hurricane Michael. If you've been up to the Panhandle, Mexico Beach still doesn't have electric, still doesn't have water, and this is 10 months later. It's that bad. And it's not that the utilities haven't brought those functions in, there's just no home or building ready to accept it. That's how bad they got hit up there. So homes have to be rebuilt, buildings have to be rebuilt, hotels, everything that was over there is just destroyed. So let's see, what else do we have? Beaches, we got $40 million in job growth grant fund, $16 million in Enterprise Florida. Put $21 million towards our libraries and $21 million towards our cultural and museum grants, which I think is important. We got to continue the arts. Otherwise, we're just a bunch of concrete, in the world. So, and then one thing I was really key on was $11 million we allocated towards substance abuse and homelessness, and that's good. I've had a son that was, he got into drugs, and 6 years into drugs, and 6 years of homelessness. Finally returned. He's doing great now. fact, he's doing amazing. I wouldn't be here today for him. He knocked on 13,000 doors, and probably the police officers probably kicked him out of Gulfstream many a time, knocking on doors. I don't know, but he's a hard worker, and he runs my wife and I our real estate business in Delray Beach. Works there. So let's see. And in terms of appropriations, I brought back $42.5 million of appropriations to District 89 in Palm Beaches. I think that was pretty significant. A typical freshman going to Tallahassee, they said, Mike, you should have about $250,000 appropriations and figure out where you want it to go. So when the appropriations chair called me down and said, Mike, bring me your list of appropriations, I picked up on the word list, because if it's $250,000, how far can you spread that? So I went down there with $50 million of appropriations, and he says, that's pretty impressive. You know, he says, you think you're gonna get it through? And I said, I'm gonna do it. If you'll help me, I'll work it through. And we got $42.5 million. Things like the Henderson School in Jupiter, in the FAU campus. It's a lab school. It's ranked number 1 or 2 in the country. A lab school there in a 1960s building that literally the roof caved in right in the middle of session, which was perfect for getting them the funding for rebuilding a new school. Another $2.5 million for Alzheimer's projects right here in District 89. $350,000 towards an after-school program in the Pearl City area of Boca Raton, and we got some money for, well, let's see, $500,000 towards a critical support initiative and cultural projects. So another thing we did, we passed the tax bill. It cut taxes in the state of Florida by $121 million, which reduced the commercial property tax, the rent on rental of commercial property from 5.7% to 5.5%. And real quickly, I sponsored 2 bills. I sponsored 6 bills. 3 of them made it through the House floor. 2 of them got signed by the governor. One was a anti-Semitism bill, and it basically included discrimination based on religion. They call it the anti-Semitism bill, but what it does is it puts discrimination as those things you're not allowed to, puts religion into those lists of discriminatory items you're not allowed to have in the K through 12, a K through 20 system. So you can't discriminate based on religion in the school system. Also, I sponsored a sober home bill, and the sober home bill did 2 things. It passed legislation that outlawed patient brokering, which allows the task force in Palm Beach County to have made some real significant arrests already. And it created a new specialized position called peer specialist. And they're people that have been drug addicts and they've been drug addicts or alcoholics, and they've recovered, and they can now work with those trying to recover from their addictions, because and they're best served to, because they've been there before. They can say, I know how you feel, I felt the same way, but I found that A, B, and C works, and they're very effective in the treatment of addiction. So I was able to get that through, and that's part of the bill. So that's about it. I'm here if you have any questions. I'd be happy to answer them.
Yes, Representative, could you, in 25 words or less, if that's possible, just share with us any attention to or discussions of the septic to sewer issues, if that was part of this session in any degree?
Yes, and that came up very early in the whole session of blue-green algae in our intercoastal system. I actually put forth a bill for a septic to sewer conversion and testing. I co-sponsored it with a Representative Robinson. We call it the Robinson-Caruso bill. And yeah, and it worked its way through all the committees and just never made it to the floor. It basically called for inspection of septic systems. We know that leaking septic systems and failing septic systems throughout the entire state of Florida is a major issue, major cause of blue-green algae, and we know we have to deal with it. I don't think I think leadership was against putting anything through that didn't have a mandate. I mean, didn't have money, you know, an unfunded mandate. I tried to put money into the bill, but I couldn't get it into the bill. The leadership wouldn't let me put it in, and then they killed it because it didn't have money in it. So that's how, you know, Tallahassee is a special place. It's coming. It's coming. I've, you know, talked to the governor about it. It's definitely coming, this conversion of septic to sewer. So as a town, we need to look towards that. I did try to get, Hypoluxo's got 95%, their town, 95% conversion. I tried to get them funds for the 5% that they didn't have, to finish it off. And, made it all the way through committee, everywhere, made it right into the budget, till the last day of the budget, and it disappeared, poof. So, all the money went to Panhandle. So hopefully we can get things like that through, and I'd be happy to work with you if you know, need a study or something like that for the town of that conversion, and try to do an appropriation for you all.
Yeah, it's a big concern for us. There seems to be a momentum growing to shift from septic to sewer, as you would expect, environmentally and just for health reasons. However, the costs of towns like ours converting are exorbitant. Actually, probably could not be accomplished. So we're looking to the state for some sort of guidance, instruction, plan to assist small towns,
Right.
particularly barrier island towns.
Exactly.
Which are so small. So I would love to sit down and talk to you about it.
I'd love to come back and talk to you about it. I've got some other ideas, and I think we start out with a study of cost and that sort of thing for the town, and a plan for it. If we can, you know, get an appropriation for that, that's a good start. But I think within the next 10 years, we're gonna be facing mandates.
Right.
So,
Other questions for Representative?
Yeah, one question, do they have, if they mandate it, do they have to give that money for it too, or can they just mandate it?
we're really good in Tallahassee of unfunded mandates.
That's what I wanted to know.
We're really good at that, absolutely. You know,
Okay.
so,
Yeah, I think it's an issue that needs to be addressed sooner rather than later, if you're looking at a 10-year plan to convert, so.
right, I think a 10-year plan is probably reasonable.
One is, we congratulate you on your victory, very pleased.
Thank you, Mayor.
And
Appreciate it.
frankly, I think I probably speak for everybody here, you have the intelligence, the determination and drive, it's quite evident from what you've said today, to advance the interests of our town and everyone else in your district, so congratulations.
This is home, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak?
I just want to say one thing before we go. I want to leave this for you guys here because the back of it, the Jerusalem Chronicle, actually has the breakdown of how the budget was spent for Florida
that's great.
and for the
You can hand
district.
that to
So
the town
you
manager.
don't have to kind of,
Thank you.
you don't have to remember any of the numbers that he said. And I'll leave a few for all of you guys out here who wants to see it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
day.
Okay, moving on to reports, town manager on
Yes.
utility underground.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. As you know, probably a month ago or a month and a half ago, you couldn't drive through the core without seeing an AT&T truck or a Comcast truck out there working. But then all of a sudden, the last month, we haven't seen any activity. So I met with both Comcast and AT&T recently, and I do have from AT&T, Ms. Patino is here today to give us kind of a status and update on where AT&T is. Ms. Patino.
Welcome.
Thank you, good morning.
Good morning.
We're in, good morning everyone. We're in phase 2 of the undergrounding project. And like I explained to Greg, we have placed most of the cable already. The work went back to engineering for revisions, field conditions, changes that we needed to make. And that's why you didn't see a lot of work for a few weeks there, since the end of June, I think. All that has been sent back out, so you'll start seeing work done again. The only cable left to place is over on, Gulfview, up to Banyan. Gulfstream, from Gulfview up to Banyan. In the rear easement there, we're placing a cable. That's the only cable left to place. Then you will see a lot of work, you know, connecting the cables, placing the terminals, things like that. So we have, quite a bit of work left, but the goal is to finish by the end of the year.
Okay. So you're talking like December, before AT&T will be ready for the customers to sign up?
We are looking at completing all the cable and, cutting the customers over to the new, underground facilities, probably before December, because we still need to remove the old cables and the poles that we have, in the December timeframe. So, we don't see, and we don't expect any, surprises right now, but that always happens, so we have to plan for that. It's hurricane season, so that could slow us down depending on what activities we have.
Okay.
But, yes.
My understanding was that, I think FPNL actually has a representative here for another subject, but my understanding was that FPNL, Comcast, and AT&T would have all of their new service ready before the old infrastructure was taken down. Is that how it works?
Yes.
I mean, I think that with FPNL, I mean, they had all their infrastructure and all their cable pulled, but they're still hot because nobody's being serviced from the poles. It's all the undergrounding, but they're still hot until everybody else is done. Right, Mr. Weiss? So, but you just said that you needed to wait to finish the new service until after the old service was pulled down?
No, we will place all the new facilities and put all the customers in service on that, and then go back and remove
Okay.
all the old equipment and cables.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's what I thought the order was. I have a question. So whenever you've got all the new service ready for the residents, and is it gonna require an appointment by the residents to have AT&T? Or do you need to get into the house
No,
to do that? Or?
I do not believe we need to go into the house, because we are cutting them over to the new facilities at the equipment side. If everything works well, we're gonna use the same drop, is my, understanding of how they built it. If we can't do that, we may have to get to the side of the house, but we shouldn't, unless they have changed their type of service and they're requesting a different service type, we should not need to go into the residences.
And can you start adding customers before everybody else is ready to be added, or do you get it to the point where all of the customers are at the same point before you begin to charge the new service up to them?
No, it should be fairly invisible to the customers when we are cutting over. There might be a short interval where we are moving them from one equipment to the other. But if we have new service requests right now, it will go on the old cables. We don't have anything frozen, so we would just have to cut it over when we get to that point of cutting it over.
Okay,
Do you do the customers as their cable is laid and connected as you're moving forward? So, for example, the south end of the town may be connected to the new equipment.
Yes.
While you're still laying line for the north end of the town.
Yes,
just as an
that's
example.
correct. So
Okay.
right now, when most of the cable is in the ground already, we are starting to connect all the cables. We're starting to place all the terminals and move the customers over to that
Okay,
new
great.
cable.
okay, but most of your cable is in, except
Yes.
for this section up there
That's correct.
Gulfview up to Banyan. And my understanding is that there's still splicing that you're doing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what we're working on now. We're splicing and connecting those cables to each other and to the interfaces that takes it to the customer.
Okay.
Mhm.
You have questions?
No, it's just important, obviously, I asked you to come here because we're stressing the importance, because AT&T is probably the last utility to connect, and cable will be done before that. Electric, of course, done,
Right.
and so we need AT&T to complete so that FPL can come back, get the poles down, you can have all
Yes.
your wires removed, and we can, achieve the aesthetic value of this transition. as
Yes,
well.
exactly. The owners of the pole, that being FPNL or AT&T, cannot remove that until everybody's off that pole. So, yes, that's an important part.
Any other questions? If not, thank you very much for updating us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll stay in touch with you.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so, and I did have a conversation with Comcast, and to make a long story short, I mean, they're doing some of the same things that AT&T are doing simultaneously. But they said to me that within 60 days, they believe that their customers can begin to make appointments to hook up their new service. And that's what they said to me, is that for the current customers, that's what they'll have to do, is make appointments with them to come.
The same question that we asked of the AT&T representative, can customers do that as they are connected to the new service, or must they wait until all of cable is
That
established?
I don't know.
Okay.
So are we gonna have like a letter or something?
Yeah, I said, well, how's that gonna be done? And so it's probably gonna be a combination of town giving out notification, but certainly the cable company, they'll probably, maybe doing a letter, I'm sure they'll be doing hangers, on the
Okay.
boards. But I don't know the answer to that question yet.
And it sounds like, unlike AT&T, which will be done almost without your knowledge,
Right.
that's gonna make the transition.
No, this one
Cable
will
requires an actual
That's right.
contact with.
I asked them that about 3 times,
Yeah.
and they said,
Okay.
yes.
Well, we're getting near the end.
Yeah.
Just a few details that need to be
That's
ironed
right.
out.
Yes.
Thank you, Art.
Okay.
Let's move on then
Yes.
to stakes in the town right away.
Yes, okay, so, summertime is very busy for us, and we do a lot of code enforcement in the summertime. There's pluses and minuses to that. On the plus side, people that we can reach, can get or do the things necessary to correct the nuisances. On the minus side is there's a lot of people that aren't in town, so it takes a lot of telephone calls, letters, and that sort of thing. So, but I think you'll notice that with respect to objects in the right of way, we're almost complete. I'm working with some 2 or 3 houses as we speak. People are out of town, and I'm going to meet with them when they get back into town. I'm not talking about December or November. I'm talking like 2 weeks. And so I think we've had good success doing it the right way, instead of us just going and pulling things at this point. It may get to the point that we have to do that, but I would prefer not to have to do that. I mean, you guys know my way, so I met with a resident for about 45 minutes yesterday in their living room, so had a very nice chat, and but we're almost there, so.
Well, the improvement is noticeable. I drove down Gulfstream Road today. It just looks so much nicer.
Yeah, except for the ruts. We still have, with all the rain, I mean, we still have a lot of water out there. Our water table is very high. Also, included in that is not just, our rights of ways, but roofs and any other, got one here on County Road that's not even related to those. So.
All right, very good. Any questions on stakes? Let's move to the budget update. Mr. Dunn, got health insurance?
Oh, yes, okay. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but as you remember from last year, we came to the commission and we talked about, our health insurance policy. It doesn't, there's no coverage for families. So Rebecca and I Rebecca came up with a very thoughtful idea, asking the question to our health insurance brokers, why do we only have one policy? But many towns and cities have 2 or 3 different policies and alternatives for their, for their employees to join. And so they said, well, we don't know why you only have one. But yes, in fact, we could have more than one. And so, in fact, we had an applicant that we were interviewing that chose not to come here because he couldn't cover his family, albeit he was the sole provider for the family. He had a wife that didn't work and 3 kids, but he went to another town that had, the opportunity for family coverage. And so, what we came up with at no cost to the town, and talking to our brokers, was a plan that was also a Florida Blue plan that provides the employee with a slightly lower tier or level of benefits for the employee themselves than what individuals that are just carrying it for themselves without any family on it, and then an opportunity to add family members, either the wife or the kids or all of them, at a lower cost, but still within the budget that the commission has approved for our health insurance. And then the employee would cover the difference in that. And there are no downsides to it, Rebecca. There are no downsides. It offers us a wider scope of employees that might be interested in coming here when they can cover their family on the health insurance.
That's a great idea, and thank you for showing the initiative to follow up on it, Rebecca. And, it's no cost to the town, and
So there's
more trying.
When's our renewal date?
Our renewal date is October 1st.
Yes.
But I want to clarify, there's no additional cost
Yeah,
to
no
the
incremental.
town.
Yeah.
There's a,
Right, we just haven't given any. So what does this drop on the blue options, HMO?
it's an
for primary?
HMO,
Yeah.
but Florida Blue does have the largest network of providers in the state of Florida.
Right.
And I've already kind of did some comparable testing, picked some,
Right.
and
Scenarios.
all of the different providers that I know, the primary care physicians that I know, they're all within that network. So I feel like it's a good compromise.
For the family plan, the co-payments are probably gonna be a little higher. It's gonna require referrals, whereas
Yeah. Your primary.
yes. So, we just don't think there's a
Well,
downside.
family of 4 was, did you get a sample on what that was on the tier 2 plan?
Well, right now,
800 a month or something?
an employee's cost to cover a family is close to $2,100 a month. And right now, it's like $1,200 at the new plan for a family. For children coverage, which is, I'll be honest, that's where I was kind of driving, is covering children. It's a difference of about $750 a month for the employee. So that's where I was really focused in trying to find affordable family coverage and
Yeah, 'cause
children
our
coverage.
tier A is pretty close to the blue options platinum or gold.
It is.
Yeah, which is what I have. It's not, it's
Yeah,
good,
it's-
but it's not cheap.
That's
Yes.
correct.
Well, I don't really understand all these different plans, but I did sit down and go through the numbers, that I do understand. And there's no incremental cost to the town. And it sounds like it's a win-win for the town and most particularly for the employees.
Correct.
So it's another option, so.
Very good, very pleased.
Yeah,
with that.
so,
Okay, moving on to backflow.
yes, our backflow preventer testing program, my understanding is now done or complete
For this calendar year,
for this
yes.
calendar year. And could you explain the reason we have it under the budget update here?
Slightly, okay, so there's a cost, there's source for getting it tested and then recovering the revenues to cover those. So, we contracted with Buckeye Plumbing, it's gonna be about $5,000 a year, give or take. So we just had to incrementally change the revenues and the expenses as a wash by 5,000, but it wasn't on there before, so I just wanted to kind of, full disclosure, so you didn't say, hey, how did the budget get $5,000 more than it was? So I'm just, that's all. But the testing has been completed as of last week.
Right. So it's just a matter of being transparent to you and just, keeping you up to date.
Okay, very good. All right, let's move on to the Plaza Soleil streetlights.
Okay, yes, Mayor, we do have some representatives here from FPNL, but I've been working with Commissioner White, and in front of you, you do have this catalog of poles and globes. As you can see, he's carrying a globe. And so, I did invite them here to talk about procedurally, if the town does make the decision to change out the lights fixtures out in Plaza Soleil. Ms. White has been meeting with individuals that live in Plaza Soleil, and she is, I believe, recommending, based on her conversations with people, a pole and actually a globe, and it's identified in there, in this little catalog for you. I've got them circled. So the pole is circled and it's on page 6. There you go. Doesn't have page numbers on it. And then the globe is on the next page. It's the Granville.
You have an H in there.
It's easier to look at that.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, that's true, you get a better idea.
I got it.
That's right.
Great, we can show it on the,
Yes, great.
Okay, let's go.
to show it up here too.
Also, while they're presenting, I've got a list of locations where these fixtures are located. Everybody get one here, John? Okay.
Good morning.
Okay.
Good morning, Mayor, council members. Before I turn it over to my colleagues, just wanted to remind you who I am, Sophia Eccleston. I'm the External Affairs Manager for Florida Power and Light, covering your town. I know that we're in storm season. Wanted to let you know that FPL is ready for storm, and we hope that you guys are. Hopefully we don't have one, but just in case, just know that I'm your point of contact in case you have any kind of constituents, complaints, or anything like that. So, thank you. And now I'll turn it over to Christian, who's going to do it.
Yeah, we'll do it. I'm Robert Weiss. I'm the FPL account manager for the town as well. And Greg and I have been talking for a while about LED lights and trying to get them into town. So we wanted to bring Christian Pruitt. He coordinates all of our LED streetlight conversions for municipalities. Him and I work together on other municipalities. So he'll be glad to answer questions and show you what the options are that we have in our program now. And I think we're going to talk about your neighborhood, I believe, mainly, correct? Okay. So I'm going to turn it over to Christian and let him go with that, and we'll be glad to answer any questions.
And by the way, Mr. Weiss is the gentleman that I talked to probably every hour during the hurricane last year. He was great, incredible support to the town during the storm.
Hopefully we don't have them this year, so.
I know.
Thank you.
All right, let Christian, yes, I'll do the driving.
Thank you, Robert, and good morning,
Good morning.
Mayor and team, Town Council. My name is Christian Pruitt. I'm with Florida Power and Light, and as Robert said, I manage the LED conversion and new installation program here in Palm Beach County. So I work with a number of municipalities such as yourself, as well as homeowners organizations and other large commercial entities So, Ron's small presentation today, it starts very high level, so Robert, if you can drive that, just the next page, you know, we're able to speak in front of you today and discuss this LED lighting solution due to the approval of the LT1 LED lighting tariff approved in March of 2017. And it was, you know, driven behind the need to replace the 600,000 existing streetlights we have in our service territory with LED. So far, we're about 25% complete in that process. Benefits LED light, as I'm sure you're all aware, superior color rendition, you know, grass looks green, roadway lines look white and yellow, you have the differentiation there, easier for drivers to see, improves small object recognition distance, and also, you know, different roadway differentiation. Here's just some high-level comparisons. On the left, you have a high-pressure sodium light, and on the right is a 4,000 Kelvin color temperature LED. You know, again, you can see dramatic improvement in color rendition, and also the directive light source as opposed to the Omni solution you have on the left that throws light in every direction. And then again, there's just a street level view. So the project scope that, you know, I was made aware of today to discuss was the removal of 26 existing streetlights in a particular area of town, and then the consideration of a decorative pole and LED solution for that area. To remove the existing streetlights and how our program is structured, the town will be responsible for the upfront cost of $10,289.30. That is comprised of the outstanding net book value, since nothing was paid up front for these poles, and then the labor or removal cost behind doing the work. Moving forward, following an LED solution, the monthly cost will be dependent upon the pole and LED selection pursued. So,
Excuse me, okay. So, we'll pay the cost, but you take them out, right?
correct, yeah, we handle all the labor, you know, it's turnkey type solution, but that is the outstanding net book value and the associated labor cost behind doing so. This is the particular area of town where, you know, this scope is presented. And it's, again, for 26 existing streetlights, which today are the four-sided traditional lantern looking style, and they're 150 watt high pressure sodium streetlights.
You know, it's hard to see them, the little yellow
Yeah.
dots on the map, that is where the lights are located now that's in the field. So, we'll be putting them back exactly where those are, that's where the new LED lights would go.
Yeah, and just touching on that comment, Robert, this,
If there's any change, if any change in the placement, can that be done?
yeah, I was just gonna touch on that, ma'am. We would be able to reevaluate the location, you know, fairly confident saying that if it's a matter of moving something between, you know, 5 to 10 feet, we'll be able to accommodate without issue. If in the event you wanna consider something going to the other side of the road, or an entirely different area, for that matter, it's something we'll have to dig into a little bit deeper. Because we do have to look into the reality of existing service at that new requested installation point, and also easement. So everything we own is placed within our easement, so if there's no easement there, we'd have to have additional easement granted, or if there's no service there and you wanted something on the opposite side of the road, we would have to investigate pulling new cable under the road. So, yeah, within reason, you know, it's something we can discuss on a location by location basis. So the one solution that was brought to my attention that the town was interested in was the Hall of Fame Granville LED solution. That is what you see in front of you today on the floor by the door. It is a 60 watt LED, which would be mounted on top of the black Washington concrete pole. It is an aggregate concrete pole, so you know, ground up concrete pressed together with an epoxy resin and dyed black, so it does retain that color quite a substantial amount of time. It has a 14-foot 6-inch mounting height. The LED itself is putting out 6,500 and change lumens. The light in front of you, and what we recommend would be the 3,000 Kelvin color temperature. That's what you have here today. Comparatively, the high pressure sodium lights are 2,200 Kelvin color temperature. So it is a cooler colored light, but we don't pass into the true cool or white light spectrum. And when I was sitting down, I actually realized a good example of this is right above your heads. You see these troffer lights. You have an extremely cool light on the left-hand side of the room, and then a warm light over here, just as a real-life comparison. And then the monthly cost for these lights, you know, in addition to that $10,000 upfront cost that was mentioned previously, would be $833 before applicable fees and taxes, which would be a $350 change increase from what you pay today for the 26 existing lights.
Can I ask you something? Why?
Why? It's, the monthly costs are, so in fact, if you look at the numbers, which I do have broken out here on the line item proposal, the energy costs are lower, but you are moving forward with a decorative concrete pole solution and a decorative style LED fixture head. So the component costs of the tariff are greater than what you have today, as opposed to the traditional standard fiberglass and traditional carriage post top.
So,
So that's per pole?
that's.
No, that's collective. Sorry.
Collective.
Yeah,
It's all 26.
yeah, that's all 26 lights.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, my fault. Sorry, that's for all 26 lights in the project scope.
Sounds better now, Greg.
Yes, my apologies.
Is there an option to buy the poles?
Not through our program, no, sir. You could pursue, through FPL Energy Services or another electrical contractor, customer-owned lighting, that you would own top to bottom, but that is not something we offer through the
Do
utility.
you have any idea what they cost?
The fixture itself is in the ballpark of around $1,300, the pole is around $2,500, and then you have the subsequent installation and cost. Something that is unique about our program and why it is beneficial to entities such as this is that these lights are wired directly into our points of service, so you don't have meter cans set on every street light or for a run of street lights. What the real cost would be to the community would be pulling service to all these locations, again, because you wouldn't be able to utilize our existing underground network piece as an unmetered dedicated circuit.
Also, if we leave it as you're proposing, then FP&L does the maintenance or changing
Correct.
the streetlights.
Yeah.
As opposed to these out here, Commission, we do the maintenance on these
Yeah.
because,
We had the option for this when we did over here, they just didn't have all the options they
Right.
have, the decorative. There were like two, there was
Right.
the traditional and there was
Temporary.
real traditional.
Yeah.
Yeah, a
That was
lot of
it.
options now.
Otherwise, we might have gone with something like this,
Right.
because you don't have to take care of them yourself, you don't have to worry about the electric, it's just all, it's exactly what it is. It was a much easier fix, we just didn't have that option.
So the contrast of buying versus doing your solution is if we buy, we have to put in all the lines to the,
Correct, so you would have the cost, that $10,000 cost, so we take out our streetlights.
Yes.
Then you would need to pursue the installation of dedicated service for the new streetlights you're installing, and then you'd have the purchase and installation costs of the streetlights you're putting in.
and plus we would have to
And
maintain.
then you'd have to maintain, correct.
Okay, because over 10 years, we're paying $40,000, or thereabout. But we're getting all those other benefits, so, now we're beginning to see the logic
Well,
of it.
and see, Mr. Lyons, that's why these cost $10,000. Those are all the costs that he just described to you that
Right.
we would have to be responsible.
And, the hands-off.
It
let them
worked
take care
over
of it.
here because we were doing the undergrounding.
Right.
It's
That's
not
right.
working over there because we're not doing undergrounding.
Right.
I mean, so it's a totally different situation.
And that $833 monthly cost does include electric, so even if you did it yourself, you still have the electric cost portion, whether you do it through us or them. So
Right.
that includes electric, the maintenance, everything that we do.
That's inclusive of everything aside from taxes
Yeah.
that you pay.
No, it's a thoughtful analysis, that now I understand the logic of why we wanted to take your program versus buying.
Correct, I did, just for, more information on that, did a recent case study with GL Homes, who's building, a large number of communities. GL Homes is building a large number of communities outside of, or west of the Turnpike. Commonly, they pursue a private lighting solution at their entrances because they want a more decorative style, offering that we didn't previously provide. They went through a private contractor, got cost, and then we provided our cost. They would have to pay our rates for 27 years to realize the cost that they're paying that private contractor for the decorative lighting.
Okay, good, thank you. I'm done on
This
that.
essentially works like as a 10-year lease.
Correct.
And for $40,000.
Yep, and then, at the term, say year 8, you guys, there's something available that you want to pursue, and it's not something FPL offers, you would have the cost of the 2 outstanding years of the contract, and then, you could pursue what your desires.
And what's like the lifespan of these lights? The ones we have now that in Plaza Solera, traditional ones, I think, we got through FPL, have really, they've deteriorated. So if that, I don't know exactly what they're made of, but
Yes.
that's why we're in this position.
So the lights you have today, well, the actual light emitting fixture itself, or the whole system?
Well, the whole system, I get with the light, but that's.
Okay. Yeah, so today you have a high pressure sodium light. It's a traditional light bulb. You know, the high pressure sodium is the means in which it generates light. It's that deep amber color. Those lights, you know, they rate them for roughly 3 years. I'm going to give it maybe 2 years on average. And you also have a tremendous amount of lumen depreciation right out of the gate. LEDs are, all the LEDs we offer, because we do have some fairly high product standards, have a minimum of 100,000 hour rated life, which if you aggregate that out over, you know, the nightly runtime is greater than 14 and a half years, and they maintain a 98 to 90% lumen maintenance or lumen output over that rated life. So they're brighter day one, and they stay bright over their entire life, as opposed to the resources you have today. In addition to that, we categorize an LED as failed once it's not reaching 60% of its rated lumen output. So if it dims below 60%, it's something that would be replaced, as opposed to traditional light today where it's replaced when it goes out. And in that, you know, sense, we will be monitoring these. You know, for lack of a better term, LEDs are more intelligent than your traditional HID light. So we can track, you know, we can have that LED will tell us, hey, I'm a 60 watt LED and I'm only drawing 40 watts of power, you know, so there's something wrong with me, and we're able to act upon that, as opposed to relying on, you know, residents or crews identifying an outlight and then replacing.
And how about the fixture itself, like withstanding the elements?
There's some of these Hall of Fame is one of the biggest names in lighting. There's some of these Hall of Fame Granville fixtures in Coral Gables that are over 40 years old. They're really well built light. You know, you're welcome to go up and take a look at it and touch it. It is a substantial fixture. It's made of, you know, quality components. I don't have a rated life for you on the materials itself, but these things have proven to stand the test of time. And then the pole itself too, as opposed to what you have today, is an aggregate concrete pole. So it is, you know, ground up piece of concrete, dyed, and then compressed together with a resin that is extremely UV resistant. And, you know, they don't, the manufacturer, you know, I think it's over a 15-year warranty on cracking or fading, sorry.
And say it did crack, I mean, that would be covered
Yeah.
at least, but that would, our monthly fee.
Yes, ma'am. We cover everything, you know, around structural and operational integrity. The one thing where we would have to approach you for a discussion on would be if, you know, a light is repetitively vandalized. And, you know, some situation like that, we're gonna replace it maybe the first and second time, but then if it continues happening, it's something we identify as vandalism, we'll have to have a conversation about how to address
it. The lights that we have out here, the new ones, are LED. But if you drive through the community at night, I mean, you don't get that very, very bright LED output, you know? And so I'm guessing the globes that we have here kind of diffuse that to some degree. I mean,
Yes,
does that happen?
Absolutely, sir. So LEDs are, like I mentioned before, like more intelligent than your traditional light bulb that just throws light in every direction. They are a directional light source. So all these are built with a pattern 3 light distribution, where, and explain that, if I was the pole itself, I am minimizing the light output behind me and I'm driving the majority of the light to the front and to the sides. That's to prevent light intrusion, light trespass into the home. And also, being a directed LED, we're driving the light down towards the roadway. By nature of the fixture style being a corner or a post stop, that globe that is around the light is built to create an ambient light effect in addition to lighting the roadway around it. So you will have an ambient light effect, but again, the majority of light is being catered towards the intended target area, eliminating light trespass and light intrusion behind the fixture and on a horizontal plane. But, just to be fully transparent, because it's a globe like that, you will have an ambient light effect around it, creating, you know, additional brightness, as opposed to, Robert, if you actually click the next slide, which I just threw in here as an example, a bell-shaped light like this, which is purely a downlight feature and does not have an ambient light effect. Okay? And I put this in here just because we're obligated to here to provide to you, you know, different solutions available, and not just tell you this is your option. So this is a different style light. It is more expensive on a monthly basis, but you can see in the photo, which apologize, it didn't come out too well in this PowerPoint, but it's a similar decorative concrete pole with a bracket arm and then a bell-shaped pendant light LED.
Well, the lights out here have that ambient effect
Mhm.
with the glow that we have, so. Okay.
Is it like dimmable?
That is not dimmable, sir. They're not dimmable in that effect. This light in front of you, in the event that there were trespass or light intrusion concerns, we can shield sides of the light, in 25% increments. So an entire side or a quarter of it, we can shield it, but it is not dimmable.
But isn't there a lower lumen or?
Correct. So what I have today and what the numbers you saw were a 60-watt LED, which is a common replacement for a 150-watt high-pressure sodium light, which is what installed today. We also have this in a 39-watt LED, which comparatively is 4,600 lumens versus 6,500. Okay, so it's not as bright in terms
About
of the
75%.
What do
Yeah.
they have now, and what do you have?
150 watt.
High pressure sodium vapor.
Yeah,
So
And
this would
everyone's
be
happy
the
with it?
equivalent of that.
commonly, yes.
They're very dull right now, the lights we have here.
Again, it's, part of that's the nature of the technology itself, because like I said, it's a light bulb that depreciates in lumen output pretty dramatically over its life, and then it's a omni emitter, which is throwing light in every direction, so not all of it is being driven towards the roadway.
Okay, yeah.
But Greg, at 3,000
Maybe
Kelvin,
we
that's
just turn
what
the
we're
lights off.
using residential.
And make it dark in
You
here.
start getting
and have it better.
5,000, which one particular municipality tried, it was just too bright. We bring them back to 3,000 Kelvin is more of a warm light like you're talking about.
Okay.
That 5,000 is like a real bright white light.
And below that is
3,000
is
is what?
insufficient.
Well, 3,000 is low as I believe it's correct?
Yeah, below that's what you pretty much have today, which is 2,200 Kelvin. You start to get that kind of amber wash effect, so you're not seeing an improvement in color rendition, which is one of the benefits of LED. And to be honest with you, an LED, when it's manufactured, is blue, and then they dress it down to change the color temperature, and you really start suppressing the efficacy of the light as you start changing, making it much warmer. So it's not truly recommended. And aside from turtle lighting, which is actually on a even lower level, a megahertz rated level, which is almost a red colored light.
I saw the other color for the light in the pole is green. Is that a forest green, similar to the poles we have out here?
So, the green pole, I don't know if I have a photo of, I can,
It's a dark green, isn't it?
it's well, the pole itself is a dark green, correct?
Yeah, the pole's a dark green.
Okay.
We also,
And the fixture too?
the fixture, we can offer a different color selection as well.
Do they match, do the two green
Yeah,
match?
that's what I was
They
curious
look,
to.
they look good together.
Thank you.
It's not like, so I'll show you the fixture itself.
That's important.
It is.
You never know.
So this is so here's the green on the actual fixture, which is like a hunter green. The pole itself would be more of a, I'm not that great in color descriptions, but I can send you some photos, Greg, and you can share those with the team, if if that works.
Darker green, the pole, isn't it?
It is, so not as, we have a black,
Yeah.
or you have this green, which is, no, it's not dark, it's almost light. I'll get some photos for you, I apologize for not having.
The poles that are over there now are black.
I'd like
Correct.
green, but if they don't match it, that would be black.
I mean, no, it's not, the pole's not a
Lighter
hunter
green,
green.
you might want black anyway.
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
what's-
The black's attractive,
yeah,
actually.
I like the black.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
poles,
It's up to you.
yeah.
We
But I
discussed
think we were
this.
trying to get some similarity, we did just on our minds, hadn't seen the actual, example, but.
What color is here?
Yeah.
But the green looked nice, if it's the right shade of green.
And-
for the
It'd be
green,
nice
but
if-
if it's not the right shade
Now,
of
you've
green.
discussed this with other members of the Festus Light Association.
Yeah, and I plan to go and look at, some of the places where they're installed, both
Good.
during the day and at
So
night.
you do have two slightly different shades of green between the pole and.
Well, some of the screens are not, they're more of a medium, I mean, you've seen them in Palm Beach or whatever, I mean, they're not the dark green, what's over here.
It would be nice, to the extent that it works
Well,
at Costa Light, to have a consistency in the
That's
town
what we thought,
color.
and our
In terms of
signs
the-
are green, I think,
That's an initial thought, but they actually have black there now, and the black is uniform,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
residents there as to what they would like.
But like the stop signs that they'll be here, green, I believe, so, you know, that'd be nice to have green, if it's the right color green.
Well, we'll get the colors
Yeah.
for you, and then you can,
And if,
Well,
you
see
know, if I
them
look
on
at
the
some of these,
site.
maybe some of these are green that are mounted already.
So it's, again, it's not like 100 like the fixture color I showed you, this, it's more of, again, I don't know what color to describe it, but it's like a faint green. I saw like this color almost similar to this, right here, if you follow me there. I'll get you photos so you better illustrate it, but I was just looking for something off the cuff. Yeah.
way to do it.
And then,
Right.
and on the fixture again itself, there is a home side and a street side to the fixture, so take into account
Do you
that
know which
direction.
side is?
Yeah, so I mean, the side that's actually facing Sophia here is the street side. So it's labeled right here on the fixture, it
Oh,
says
I see.
street.
Okay,
And then that takes into account how the LED diodes are
sure.
oriented inside the fixture, then also the refractor globe here, how that's built to dissipate the light in front of it to the sides of the fixture.
Because it's a light.
Yeah, understood.
Choice.
A very thorough presentation,
And
thank you.
it's good too, because, you know, we've had cases like Christian said, where the neighbor behind, look at the bedroom, and you see the light now, we can shield the back of it. So we can shield it if someone does say, I don't wanna look out my window and see
Right,
that.
and if it's in your living room, you know, at night or something like that.
And that's often a common complaint about.
Correct. That is today for us as well, for our other lights.
I mean, we go, again, with the directionality of LED technology, I've gone through communities that have 500 lights, and, you know, today with the high pressure sodium lights, like every other house has a shield. We put the new LEDs in, and we're putting in maybe, you know, just a handful of shields comparatively. Again, it's a directive light source that's catered in the light to where it's supposed to go, as opposed to just throwing it in every direction. So light intrusion, light trespass, uplight is all greatly minimized in comparison to the old technology that we're replacing.
And the close to the town of Highland Beach, we've converted the entire town to LED.
In Highland Beach?
Entire town is LED, so we've already converted that town. Another one, so.
What's your lead time for delivery and installation?
So the biggest thing in this solution here is the poles itself. We have brought on a second vendor to alleviate that. Right now, about 12 to 16 weeks would be, you know, a fair lead time there.
And installation, how long?
So once we have the materials in hand, you know, they would pull and replace, kind of, you know, one after another. We're not pulling any new, assuming we're not relocating any poles, it would be inside of to 2 weeks, I would imagine.
And did you need any kind of traffic control or anything for that?
From what I observed, you know, it's mainly 2-lane roads, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the crews would go from
Well,
the,
there are a couple that there's one cardinal circle, that's one like that, it's small.
okay, the crew would go ahead and, you know, they would turn off 50 yards in front of and 50 yards behind each truck, and then, you know, occupy that side of the road that they're working on. So, I mean, yeah, we could absolutely collaborate with you in any special exceptions that need to be made, but we're fully flexible there.
Any other questions? Well, Christian, Robert, thank you very much, very thorough presentation, gives us a lot of information. And Attorney John, will continue.
Mr. Mayor? Sir. I spoke to Robert earlier this morning, and would ask him if he could just take a step back to the undergrounding and FPL's participation from this point out. Robert, could you just?
Yeah, I mean, I talked to John Lear. John Lear is our project manager, which you guys have met John Lear before for the undergrounding. He's out today. So I just talked to him this morning, and like AT&T said, as soon as AT&T is Comcast is complete, and Greg notifies us after he's notified that they're off all the poles, we will do a field inspection to verify that that is truly the case. All the poles are in the clear. As soon as we're in the clear, we'll start assigning that to the contractors, start just go in here and just pull one pole like the other. So we'll just be out here for them. So it sounds like they're not gonna be done until, what, December? So that tells you when our poles are gonna be pulled, we'll be after that. So that's what quickest right now that we can give you, so.
I think
everybody off the poles.
Comcast has indicated that they would be completed sooner. Also maybe, A1A here to discuss what we're doing right now.
A1A, along A1A, you still have high-pressure sodium vapor lights, because that's what the town shows for the south end of the town. So we're gonna continue that as far as what's correct, come up the north end of the town with the same high-pressure sodium vapor lights on A1A. We're designing the job now to put in the new poles, the new lights. Once those are up and ready to run, then we'll disconnect all the primary overhead lines to it. And then those poles, once AT&T Comcast is off, will be ready to pull as well.
Okay, so that's done after their.
And we need to keep that street light circuit energized. We don't want that street dark, of course, you know.
Right.
DOT would have a heart attack naturally if we did that. And you guys wouldn't like it as well.
No,
So
that's true.
once the new lights are up and running, we will disconnect the overhead and be ready to start taking everything down. Okay?
Great.
Yep.
Thank you.
No, well, if AT&T finishes in December, approximately how much longer before the poles can
As soon as they're done, then we'll go do our field inspection, make sure it's truly done, and then we'll assign it right to our contractor right then. And next, 4 to 6 weeks later, we'll start getting and pulling poles.
Okay, so 4 to 6
Yeah.
weeks after you
Yeah,
do
after
a
we do our
field.
field, we wanna make sure that what they're saying is true.
And so
Yeah.
when they get the okay, how long before you schedule your field inspection?
As soon as they tell us, John's told me, as soon as he's informed, he'll start building field inspection for these
Okay.
guys. So you say.
I
as soon
just
as
want to
Greg
know
says
time,
go,
So look
you
at the
know.
spring, March, yeah.
Sounds
Okay.
like you're right, I think that's, sounds more realistic, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And they want this in their living rooms, so I have to carry it.
All right, let's move on to the water line improvements. Baxter Woodman presentation.
Yeah.
Which we've been provided.
Okay, Jason, I'm gonna leave it to you to introduce, your team here.
Jason Bugsy with Baxter Woodman. We're here today to talk about our water main corridor analysis for the phase 2, what we're calling north of Gulfview. We've got 2 project engineers that are working on it. We have Jackie Krignav Evak-Cool, that's a mouthful, I think that's why Greg wanted me to introduce him.
That's
And then we have Ms. Sarah Fox. So I'm gonna leave it up to them and they will.
Good morning. As Jason mentioned, my name is Jockey Cole. I'm the project manager for State Road A1A Water Main Improvements Phase 2 project. On behalf of Baxter Woodman, I'm presenting to you, the commission, our recommended water main alignment based on our preliminary design corridor analysis. The Baxter Woodman team includes the following folks, as Jason was up here earlier. Jason Pugsley is Vice President for Operations Manager. Rebecca Travis, Vice President, the Gulfstream Client Manager. Myself, the Project Manager. Sarah Fox is the Project Engineer. And Thomas English is the Project Surveyor. We have Ritzel Mason as our sub-consultant for the underground utility locates. You can thank them for all the pink flags that were everywhere in the town. And we have Terracon, who is the geotechnical engineer. Okay. Little project history. In 2006, Baxter Woodman was commissioned by the town to design the 12-inch water main replacement, parallel water main replacement along State Road A1A between Pelican Lane to Gulfview Drive. This was considered phase 1. In 2018, Baxter Woodman was commissioned to develop the 10-year capital improvements plan. For the CIP, a hydraulic model of the potable water system was performed and indicated locations within the town where fire flows were insufficient. Baxter and Woodman also noted that the existing potable water infrastructure consisted of asbestos cement, otherwise known as transite pipe, that's been in service for over 50 years. Figure 1 depicts the overall town Gulfstream potable water system. This figure was provided in the CIP and indicates in red those segments of water main that Baxter and Woodman recommend to upsize to ensure sufficient fire flows are available. Our current project, phase 2, can be seen on the right-hand side of the figure, where we propose to replace the water mains along A1A from Gulfview Drive to C Road, C Road to County Road, and finally along Little Club Road. The purpose of this project, as I mentioned, was to upsize the existing water mains to provide fire flows. So on State Road A1A, north of Gulfview Drive, we're replacing an existing 6-inch water main with a 12-inch water main, approximately 3,100 feet. Along C Road, we're replacing a 6-inch water main with an 8-inch water main, approximately 375 feet. On County Road, replace an existing 6-inch water main with an 8-inch water main, approximately 1,300 feet. And back to State Road A1A, replace a 6-inch water main that used to, or currently bisects St. Andrews Tennis Court, with an 8-inch water main that jogs around the tennis courts, which is about 250 feet. Finally, Little Club Road, we're replacing an existing 6-inch water main with an 8-inch water main, approximately 2,000 feet. The new water main will connect to all existing side road pipelines. Fire hydrants will be provided at 500-foot intervals throughout residential areas and 1,000-foot intervals in non-residential areas. 2-inch water services will be provided to all existing meters, and existing 6-inch transite water mains will be filled with grout and abandoned in place. Design considerations during our review, we took into account the Australian pines. We understand that that's a significant feature to this town, and it's a historic scenic highway. It's designated by the Florida legislature. We consulted with the town's arborist, Jonathan Frank of F.A. Bartlett Tree Expert Company.
Who is actually here with us today.
Oh, how's it going? Through conversations with him, we've determined that the minimum horizontal distance from the Australian pines is 3 times the trunk diameter, as utilized as a horizontal, while a 2 to 3 foot depth from the existing grade below the tree is utilized for vertical separation. In addition to the Australian pines, we must take into consideration the hazards of working adjacent to existing natural gas main along A1A and Little Club Road. That's predominantly on the west side, or the east side of A1A, and then it's on the south side of Little Club Road. The existing water main itself is of great concern given its years of service. Transite pipe of this age is typically brittle, therefore working adjacent to this pipe is avoided as much as possible. We took into account the numerous utilities, such as electrical, telecommunications, and fiber optics cables that are found along each segment of our alignment. And of course, we took into account the ease of maintenance of the installation of the pipe. Figure 2 represents our overall alignment for phase 2 of the project. And we'll start on A1A from Gulfview Drive towards C Road. Figure 3 again depicts this section of the roadway. The dark blue portion of the water main along the left-hand side of this figure we propose to install by direct bury. That's open trenching and laying the pipe. The red line along the right-hand side of the figure we propose to install by directional bore. We have identified 3 locations along this alignment to a highlight as locations 1, 2, and 3. So figure 4, this location represents location 1. That's the southern end of the State Road A1A, just north of the intersection of Gulfview Drive and A1A. This is where our project begins. We can see where we propose to install the water main parallel to the existing water main and to the west of the existing Australian pines. Figure 4A provides you with a street view perspective looking north. You can see that we have the gas main on the right-hand side, existing and proposed water mains on the left-hand side, and buried and overhead utilities on the left-hand side. So you can see where we're running behind the Australian pines. Figure 5 depicts our second location, which is just south of the intersection of Banyan Road and State Road A1A. At this location, the existing water main and existing gas main are both located on the east side of State Road A1A, We maintain our alignment along the west side of A1A to avoid these utilities. Figure 5A gives you a street view perspective of the alignment of the proposed water main and the existing utilities at location number 2. We propose to we propose a water main between the edge of the pavement and the landscaping in this section of the corridor. Figure 6 presents our final location along State Road A1A. This is the northern end just south of Seed Road. This segment is proposed for directional bore installation due to the amount of buried utilities such as the electric, fiber optic, and telecommunications. Figure 6A gives you a street view perspective looking south from the intersection of State Road A1A and Seed Road. And next we have C Road. C Road's interesting in that the roadway of C Road is not centered on the C Road right of way. Figure 7A provides a clear depiction of the right of way for C Road. The center line of the roadway is the north right of way line, while the south right of way line can be seen further to the left of the figure. The existing water main is located just outside of the existing roadway on the left-hand side. We propose to install the new water main to the north of the existing water main within the pavement to avoid conflicts with the existing utilities and to avoid having multiple fittings in the proposed water main to cross the existing water main as we transition from State Road A1A over to County Road. Following C Road is County Road. County Road is another interesting roadway. The actual right-of-way is only 10 feet wide. The existing roadway varies in width, some of which is outside of the 10-foot right-of-way. The existing water main is completely outside of the 10-foot right-of-way. The existing water main resides on private property west of the right-of-way. Figure 9 represents a segment of the alignment at the center of County Road. You can see that there are numerous utilities running along each side of the right-of-way and crossing through the right-of-way. We propose that the water main be located in the center of the right-of-way. Figure 9A gives you a street view perspective of the location. Disturbing the residents during the construction of this segment of water main is unavoidable. Sections of the road will be closed each day as the contractor progresses with the installation of the water main. We can estimate the contractor would be able to install about 100 to 200 linear feet of pipe each day and backfill trenches at the end of the day to provide a safe temporary roadway. The final roadway construction would occur towards the end of the project after the installation of the water main has been hydrostatically tested and bacteriological tests have passed. The residents would be inconvenienced again while the road is replaced by the end of the project, but the end product would be a new road along County Road.
A question.
Sure.
So will the new road be placed where the existing asphalt is? I mean, there's not gonna be any...
Correct. We would,
You're gonna
replace
leave
exactly
it where
what's
it
there
is.
now.
Okay.
Correct.
So you're gonna have to cut through the road, obviously, right? to put
Correct.
in this, okay,
Correct.
so, okay, is that in our budget?
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's all included in
Okay,
their
the new
proposal.
roadway?
Yes.
Okay.
State Road A1A, as we come around the corner of County Road, we will avoid going beneath the St. Andrews Tennis Club as the existing water main currently does, by jogging back out into the State Road A1A right of way to get to Little Club Road. As you can see in Figure 10, we propose to run the water main adjacent to the west right of way line of State Road A1A behind the existing power poles. Figure 10A provides a street view perspective where we can see that there is plenty of room to install the water main where we propose and avoid the numerous utilities along State Road A1A. Finally, we arrive at Little Club Road. There's no right-of-way for Little Club Road. The water main is installed through private properties, such as St. Andrews, Little Club, and Las Casitas. At the west end of Little Club Road, the town has an emergency connection to the city of Boynton Beach's water distribution system. The water main from Boynton Beach travels along the westbound lane of Little Club Road and then travels south through the concrete vault that you can see here on the right side photo. It then continues and connects to the town's distribution system on Little Club Road. Figure 11 shows the alignment of the water main along Little Club Road from State Road A1A to La Casitas development. Figure 12 provides a more detailed look at the central location along Little Club Road. You can see that the existing water main and gas main exist to the south of the road, while numerous utilities are located within the median. There is a force main located to the north on the westbound lane. We propose to locate the water main adjacent to the median in the eastbound lane. This provides separation required from the force main and sufficient distance from the gas main during installation.
The force main is sewer, right?
Correct, correct, sir. Sanitary sewer. Figure 12A provides a street view perspective of this location looking west. As you can see, we have the numerous utilities within the median itself, plus the overhead utilities. And you have your gas line on the left-hand side of the eastbound lane. And to the far left, you have the existing water main. The water main will extend to the far west end of Las Casitas development, where there's an existing fire hydrant and water meter. Preliminary design construction cost opinion. The following is a high-level construction cost opinion. We estimate that State Road A1A would be approximately $970,000, C Road $144,000, County Road $410,000, the north end of State Road A1A $30,000, and Little Club Road $511,000, for a total of $2,061,000, with a 20% contingency of $412,000. The grand total is estimated at $2,473,000.
Rebecca Travis has given us projections on the different phases of the CIP program. Are these the same numbers in her projections?
I believe they're similar.
They fall in line.
I'm sorry?
Yes, sir, they fall in line with the numbers that are in there. But
Does that
they're,
mean they're the same? I'm not sure.
yes, sir, so they're within the same magnitude.
Okay.
Recognize that this is a preliminary design, and we're at a high level, and as we go through and do a detailed design, identify more of the conflicts, what we're gonna have to intersect, how the best to resolve those conflicts, most times those numbers actually come down. We've added a contingency in there at this point for the unknowns as we progress through the design. So.
Thanks.
And those costs anticipate the difficulties with coral rock on County Road and elsewhere around
Yes, sir.
the town hall.
Yes, sir.
Next slide is our design schedule. To date, Baxter & Woodman has completed a topographical survey, draft preliminary design report, and review of the report with the town. We will submit the final preliminary design report, which includes the beta study, by the end of next week, and we'll begin preparing for the 50% design submittal due on September 6th. The 75% submittal is due October 28th, and the 100% design is due on December 4th. Permitting will begin after the 75% review, and we project bidding will be complete by February 9th.
Very well organized.
Sure is.
Thank you. Thank you. On behalf of Baxter & Woodman, I'd like to thank the commission for having us, and thank Greg Dunham, Rebecca Tu, and Brian Dietrich for their support. And with that, if there are any questions?
A very thorough, excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Really dramatizes with the photographs as well as details, the laying out of the lines and some of the difficulties that might be encountered. So this was very helpful. Thank you.
I have one question.
Sure.
On figure or right through the road. How, while you're doing this work, how will those residents access their property?
Very cautiously. There will be a lot of coordination involved with the contractor, with the town, probably with the police force, to coordinate how residents could enter, exit, possibly park their vehicles in their neighbors' driveways or at the town hall. There are different ways that to skin.
About how long would this segment last?
As I mentioned, the installation will probably take per day about 200 linear feet they can install. So as they install during that day, they'll backfill, have the roadway reopen so residents can use it again, and then come back the next day, excavate, and keep the process going for I think it's what, 1,300 feet. So that's probably about a week or so worth of work. But at the end of the project, they won't see construction for a while until the end of the project when they come back to repave the road. And again, that's going to be another situation where you have to coordinate with the residents, maybe have different options for them to get in and out of their homes. But we foresee this project being done during the off season, with the bidding being complete by February, most likely award shortly thereafter. Construction starting sometime in April, so they should be in the off season and hopefully minimal disturbance to the residents.
Jockey, early on in our discussions with our staff and Rebecca Travis, in looking at County Road, it was a daunting, it was daunting to us because obviously with the right of way and the current location of our infrastructure being on private property. And so I think the choice that, there was a choice made to keep it obviously in the public right of way, because of the maintenance, we're not gonna have to be, going on to private property to do that. But also, we initially were thinking, oh my goodness, are we gonna have to, buy some property or, to get the road in the right place? So the decision was made to keep it where it is. So I think that's keeping the price of that down actually for the work on County Road.
And I believe you also get a 2-for-1 deal on County Road because part of the CIP included replacement of roadways. And if you go down County Road, you'll see a lot of cracking on the road itself. So you kind of get that replacement of that road at the same time as installing the water main.
So, is the County Road extension essential to the
Yes, because that section of water main feeds Little Club. So yes, so that's part of the upsizing to provide fire flows.
What's the condition of the water line underneath County Road?
Oh, like we mentioned, it is that transite asbestos cement pipe, and it is 50+ years old. So typically, that type of material is brittle. It's fine as long as it's undisturbed. But once if you do have some kind of vibration, something significant happen, it's possible that it could crumble, and utility, O&M will have to come out and do maintenance and do a repair.
But you couldn't avoid County Road, come up to C Road to County, and then continue the project at A1A North down Little Club.
We'd have to analyze the hydraulics if to see if the 6-inch could remain while we upsize the pipes downstream. But typically, you would want to upsize as you go along to feed the very end of the water main at Las Casitas.
Could you do that for us?
Take a peek at it. Sure.
Sorry?
Take a peek at it, see if it's feasible. So I think what would happen along that, you wouldn't obviously replace the main, you wouldn't replace the services. You'd probably end up shooting a directional drill from C Road up to Little Club along A1A, so, because you wouldn't have any services that you'd have to pick up on that. So we could look at that and eliminate the restoration of the asphalt.
Right, if you could just look at it for us.
Didn't I ask that question before, and she said the Boynton water main is under there, and we can't do it, we have to come up county.
Well, I mean, Boynton, I mean, you know that the Boynton water mains are there, so you're
Can
aware
we
of
put both
that.
of them there, maybe?
That's on local.
The biggest concern with.
No, we're
We're
talking
talking
about.
A1A.
A1A.
Yeah, instead of coming up through County Road.
Right.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah, I'm wondering,
I
that's
thought
not,
there was when the preliminary work, I think it was Ms. Travis, I think we thought that, you all thought there might have been, you know, I don't know what the engineering are, but, there might have been too big of a conflict there, or the cost was gonna be greater, one of the two or both.
Directional boring is
Yeah, I mean,
significantly
the
more
open dig is
expensive.
pretty sweet that we can do it as, hopefully as far as the engineering study shows right now, but, yeah, I think it was.
if you just look at it for us.
Cool. One of the other things with the replacement of the AC pipe, from a maintenance perspective, as Jackie mentioned, once you have a break on it, it becomes more difficult to splice back in a new piece because you've got specialty couplings.
Right.
And as you make those repairs in the couplings, oftentimes as the transite pipe gets old, gets brittle, and you make the compression on that, it becomes more difficult on the crew, so, just something.
I mean, Commissioner Orthron, remember at the Palm Way Polo intersection, we ever wanted the break there, it's probably been a year ago now. But that was as a result of a truck bringing equipment in, I mean, it was just the vibration.
If you're going to install the water main, you would want to go ahead and do it and replace County Road while you can. You know, instead of spending the money, because eventually that pipe will fail. You know, we're at 50 years now, so you're gonna have to go back on County Road and fix that pipe anyways, or you're gonna have patches all over the place. So, you know, in our minds, do it right, replace it now while you can.
We do not, well, I guess we have, you know, waste hauling trucks going down there, but that road doesn't carry a lot of heavy equipment, but of course the garbage truck is very heavy, so.
There
I
might
mean,
be construction up there sometime soon anyway, there was a sale of property not long ago, but
Yeah, I mean, randomly, we do have, you know, construction vehicles, but of course, you know, weekly, we have the waste management team down there. But because of the small size, I mean, we don't have a lot of large vehicles that even, I mean, they avoid that road, but.
Yeah, the small size also helps to minimize the cost of replacement of the road.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? If not, thank you very much.
All right, thank you
Thanks.
for your presentation.
ARPB meeting will not have a meeting in August, as many of you know. The next meeting is September 26th. Financial Director report.
Yes, sir, I mean, provided with the financial report, it represents 10 months of the year. And unless you have any questions regarding that, we would ask that you approve it.
Any questions on the finance report or the water usage report? If not, we'll accept those as submitted. Chief Allen, police activity report.
We request be accepted as submitted, no additional.
Questions? If not, we will accept that as submitted. Let's move on to items for commission action. We have the republication of the town code. Mr. Dunn, could you just explain why that is needed?
Yes, Mayor. Rita, do you remember the last time that we did this exercise?
Well, I think it was in, I think I put that in my note.
1999.
99, yeah.
Okay.
But we had one supplement since that time.
But that's 20 years. We've had one supplement. I mean, it's time to do it. It's the reason that we're asking to do it.
There have been numerous changes to the
Yes.
code over those decades.
Yes.
That needs to be republished. Any questions, comments about that?
So what does this just get uploaded in Unicode?
Yes.
is it the whole thing?
It'll,
This whole thing.
yes, it will be a reprint.
And you're requesting authorization for $12,500
Yes, sir.
to address that
And
issue.
that will also, that provides, I'm trying to remember, 25 or 26 of the
Copies.
black notebooks.
Okay. If there's no objection, is there a motion to approve that?
I'll move to approve the publication, republication of the town code for $12,500.
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Next, we have up for renewal appointments for the ARPB, Thomas Smith, Malcolm Murphy, and Curtis Roach, who have served very well on the board. And you'll recall that we made a change to the code to preserve consistency on the code by allowing members to continue to serve at our discretion. I would recommend the approval of all three of these members to reappointment.
I'll second it.
Well,
No,
somebody else will need to.
can we do it all at once? Or do we have to do each individual?
Then we can do it all at once.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll move to approve Tom Smith, Malcolm Murphy, and Dennis Roach to serve on the ARPB.
Now I'll second it.
Perfect. I should have you in the motion.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. Let's move now to the trimming proposal for Australian pine trees.
Yeah, Mayor, and I do have Mr. Jonathan Frank here with the Bartlett Tree Service. The story behind this is every year, the town used to have a company, Rita, what was his name, Mr. Way?
Way Hoyt?
Way
Yeah.
Hoy, that provided a maintenance service for the entire section of A1A with the Australian pines. Mr. Way, I guess, retired, and his company, it was actually bought out by Bartlett Tree Service, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so this yearly maintenance that we do hasn't really been done for a couple of years. And so we've got basically 3 years of service that need to be taken care of. As you know, Bartlett Tree Service did an inventory, an exhaustive inventory of our Australian pines that really considered the condition of the trees and among other things that they evaluated. And as you go out there and look at any one of those pines, they all are tagged with a number. So we have information on each tree at, just at our, instant, that we need it. So, this is a request for $20,000 to do a section of trees along A1A, and these are ones that we consider that need the trimming really now. We've noticed some of the limbs falling. They've been really around the area of the golf course where there's no homes that block the wind from the ocean. And so this is a request of $20,000 to do that.
And when would that be completed?
Well, we're waiting on a DOT permit to do that.
I don't see any reason it can't be completed before the end of this month.
Okay, because obviously we're doing this because of the storm season, so
That
that's
is correct.
sooner the better.
Yeah.
Is this something we're gonna look at every year?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, we
Continuing going forward?
I'm sorry?
Going forward?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
We'll be doing this every year. Hopefully sooner, in the hurricane season, than we're doing this year.
And these trees are located on whose property? I'm a little confused by Australian pines and
I think most of them are on the DOT right of way.
that's why we need their permission, I guess.
Well, no, sir, we need the permission because the work requires maintenance of traffic with lane closure. And in order to do that, that's what we need their permission for, to ensure.
Yeah, there will be some lane closures and for a brief amount of time, because they're gonna be out in the middle of the road,
Well, I guess what I'm
coming back.
confused by is, if I had an Australian pine in my property, you wouldn't come in and just cut it. You would, don't you have to get the DOT's approval? It's on their land, right? That's what I'm trying to, or is it the golf course? That's what I'm trying to really figure out. Or is it not relevant?
Well,
I would suggest it's irrelevant. The,
Yeah.
permission from the DOT is specific to traffic control.
Right.
We
I mean,
maintain
the DOT
control
is,
over Australian pines based on legislative authority.
right,
Oh, okay.
and
Oh, okay.
the DOT is fine with that. our circumstances with the legislature, and so we have taken over the maintenance of those.
Right.
But in addition to that, I mean, we can cut them down, we can plant them, anytime that we.
Well, the mayor answered the question for me, thanks.
Any other questions? If not, is there a motion to approve $20,000 toward the Australian pine tree service?
Motion to approve,
Second.
as presented.
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthway?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. We move on to ordinance 19/3. Ms. Taylor?
Yes. An ordinance of the Town Commission of the Town of Gulfstream, Palm Beach County, Florida, amending the date of the 2020 municipal election from March the 10th, 2020 to March the 17th, 2020, to coincide with the 2020 presidential primary election, providing a date for qualifying for such election, providing for severability, providing for repeal of ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date. It's being presented on first reading this 9th day of August, 2019, and will be for second reading next month.
So we'll be unifying any local, state, federal elections to the same day.
That's
reducing
right.
cost and expense. Correct.
We have to do that each time there's a presidential primary. So it'll revert back to our second Tuesday after 2020 election's over with.
Ordinance number 19/3 has been presented to us on first reading. Is there a motion to approve?
I move to approve ordinance number 19/3.
Second?
Ms. Taylor?
Commissioner Lyons?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Stanley?
Yes.
Commissioner White?
Yes.
Commissioner Orthway?
Yes.
Mayor Morgan?
Yes. All right, let's move on then to liens with reduction request, 2775 Avenue also Lay. Mr. Mazzaro?
Thank you, Mayor. The town has a substantial code enforcement lien that actually exceeds $1.8 million on the property located at 2775 Avenue also Lay, owned by Richard Lavoie. The lien dates back to 2009 and has been accumulating for the past 10 years at the rate of $500 a day. Mr. Lavoie died on March 4th of this year, never having fixed a number of violations on the property, and the town was unable to get him to upkeep the property, already having this lien accruing. Upon learning of Mr. Lavoie's death in late March, the town has been preparing to address this substantial lien. First, the town obtained a title commitment which showed that Lavoie owned the home free of mortgages or other liens. The town then performed an heir search which both confirmed that Lavoie died without a will and provided the town with the names and addresses of all of his heirs. This provides the town with the ability, so it choose, to serve all interested parties in a foreclosure action. Again, if the town decides it would rather foreclose on the home and sell it than negotiate a settlement with Mr. Lavoie's estate. Of course, any deficiency between the proceeds from a foreclosure sale and the amount of the town's lien could be attained from the estate, including an action against a property in Massachusetts he also owns. I want to thank Mr. Mazur. He's here, he's a representative of the estate. And he's here to negotiate a settlement of the lien on behalf of the estate. Just a little bit of the background and what he's provided me. While not publicly offered for sale, the estate has been seeking out interested buyers and has a contract currently to sell the property for $420,000. Of course, that sale is contingent on the town agreeing to release the lien for a price to be negotiated. And then, of course, it's also subject to the sign-off of Mr. Lavoie's 10 heirs as well. Because the estate did not obtain an appraisal of the property, the town did hire an appraiser at its own expense who valued the property at $760,000. However, it's a big caveat, this assumes an average condition of the house. The house is actually in very poor condition. So a follow-up call to the appraiser noted that if the structure was in very poor condition, he would adjust it down about $150,000, which would bring that estimate to $610,000. Just to go over some of the previous issues that not only the town has had, but the Place Hustle Association has had with Mr. Lavoie. I just want to sort of get that on the record. The town files include 6 different code enforcement cases against Mr. Lavoy where a special magistrate had to be brought in, and town staff had to testify about the violations. It's about 150 pages worth of records. It started in 2005, but town records from the Place Ossaway Association indicated as early as April of 2002 that his property was discussed at the association's annual meeting, specifically that the property was not being maintained, his lawn had died due to lack of water, and the letter ended seeking a response on how he would address the problems. A follow-up letter in December of that year noted that no progress had been made, although it indicated that Mr. Lavoy had spoken with the association and said that he was going to install some new landscaping. The December letter also called attention to the state of his lawn, trees, and shrubs. And going into the town's actions on this property, this first special magistrate hearing was held in April of 2005 for a deteriorating lawn. The action started in the usual course, what Mr. Dunham referred to earlier at this meeting, doing it the right way, with a courtesy letter just telling him, please fix your property, and said that the town had received several complaints from property owners in the neighborhood. A follow-up letter was sent a few months later, giving Lavoy 30 days to fix the violation. Hearing for the special magistrate was scheduled for March of 2005, but it was continued to April 23rd of 2005. At that hearing, Lavoy testified that the week before, he installed new sod and irrigation system, and having corrected the violations, he was found by the special magistrate to have been in violation, but had corrected those. And he was reminded by the special magistrate that if the violation was repeated, the town would be able to assess a daily fine of up to $500 per day. So again, that was the first code enforcement issue that we had with him in 2005. In August of 2005, a notice of repeat violation letter was sent by then town manager Thrasher to Mr. Lavoy, noting that his grass had again died and requested the violation be corrected. A September 20th, 2005 hearing before the special magistrate resulted in a fine of $250 per day until a violation was corrected, and this resulted in a $4,000 fine, which he paid. Several code violations were then noted in a later December 2005 letter, including tall grass, dead trees, a pool that was completely black, and a collapsed pool screen. It was further noted that the collapsed pool screen was a violation of Florida Building Code regarding fencing of pools. However, that letter was not accepted by Lavoy and was turned to the town 3 weeks later. A February 2006 notice of violation letter by, again, then manager Thrasher, noted that Lavoy and Thrasher had spoken by phone, as well as the town code enforcement officer had many conversations without the violations being corrected. The letter again noted that the pool enclosure was damaged in a 2005 hurricane and was scattered about the property. The pool was no longer in compliance with the state building code regarding fencing of pools, and there were a number of dead trees on the property. A notice of hearing was sent out on March of 2006, and a hearing was held on March 28th, 2006. At that hearing, Lavoy was found to have violated the town code for these conditions and was ordered to comply by April 11th, 2006, or a $250 per day fine would be assessed. Lavoy cleared the debris and dead vegetation and erected a temporary fence around the swimming pool, which the town inspected and found that satisfied the code and the special magistrate's order. And he did that within the time frame that is ordered by the special magistrate. 2 months later, on July of 2006, the town sent Mr. Lavoy another statement of repeat violation and notice of hearing due to the state of his lawn, which had gotten so bad that it again needed to be replaced. At that hearing, it was found to be a repeat violator, and due to the state of his lawn, and he was fined $10 per day until a violation was corrected. After Lavoy failed an initial inspection by the town on July 11th, he was found to be in compliance on July 21st and was fined $200, which he paid. Finally, which led to the lenient issue here on March 20th, 2009, the town sent him a statement of repeat violation and notice of hearing due to, again, the status of his lawn and that the temporary fence that he had erected around his pool in 2006 had collapsed. At the April 16, 2009 special magistrate hearing, Mr. Lavoy was found to be in violation of the town code for these offenses and was fined $500 per day starting on April 2nd, 2009. An April 21st, 2009 letter from town clerk Rita Taylor informed Lavoy of the violations, sent him a copy of the special magistrate's order, and told him that when the violations were corrected, he needed to call town hall to arrange for an inspection, which he had done in many of these previous cases. Having not corrected the violations, the town filed a lien on his property. On September 23rd, 2009, another letter from Rita Taylor informed Mr. LaVoy that the town had filed a lien against his property and reminded him that the fines assessed continue to accumulate daily and will, quote, continue to accumulate until such time that you advise the town that the violations have been corrected and we make an inspection to confirm. We have been granted access to the property by the estate. Greg and I went there yesterday after being advised that the violations were corrected. We confirmed that they were corrected. Specifically, they erected another temporary fence around the swimming pool. So the lien is no longer accruing, and the final amount of the lien is $1,890,000. So that's, again, the history of the issues that we've had with Mr. LaVoy and this specific property. And with that, Mr. Mazur, if you have anything you would like to offer the commission, I know that there's a plan to rehabilitate the property. So I would give the floor to you.
Yeah, should he be sworn?
He's not, I mean, yeah,
Yes, I don't think so. Well,
Good morning, Commission. Good morning, Mr. Mayor. Thank you guys for allowing me to come out this morning. I guess the reason for me being here is to represent Mr. Carbone, the personal representative of the estate. I have been working with a few potential buyers to purchase the property, kind of off market. We've also talked about going on market, and ultimately this was the best offer that we had in place. No contingencies, a proven track record of renovating properties in the local market. The current buyer, Oceano Properties, is local here to Gulfstream, and they've done just shy of 30 properties over the last couple years. And if you were to speak to the different neighbors in those areas, it's been a drastic improvement. Their goal for the property would be strictly to renovate, versus knock down and drag out the process, and would certainly work with the town as far as any immediate actions taken. A couple things we discussed last week were cleaning up the driveway or gutters, or just maintaining the landscaping while the permitting process goes through, because we know that the permitting would have to come through Gulfstream and then go through the city of Delray, so there would be some time involved in that process. And ultimately, with Mr. Carbone and the other heirs, they apologize on their uncle's behalf. There isn't much they could do to fix what's been done in the past, and they're just asking for as much leniency as possible to move this forward. And we know that we're at your mercy, and whatever decision you make, we'll team with you on. So.
well, how much are they offering to settle the lien for?
So the current contract is $20,000. We know that that's probably a starting point for things. I can tell you that I've negotiated with all different municipalities, and generally the number is, say, $60,000 or less. Granted, I've never dealt with a $1.8 million back violation that extends back as far as it has. So I can certainly understand the commission and the town's frustrations for 15, 16 years of aggravation and time wasted for something like this. I just ask that we look at what we can do moving forward to renovate. In the 610 number from the appraiser, that's one thing that I'd like to address. In the current state of the property, I wouldn't even encourage listing it as high as 610. It'd probably be closer to a 500 number to list, and then you're also going to be dealing with people that want inspections and want some different things on the property. So.
Donna, you live in,
yeah,
what would be your objective goal? Clean it up as soon as possible, I assume.
the property really, I live in Plaza Soleil, and the property's been an eyesore and a source of complaints, with meetings since as long as I've lived there, which is about 16 years. I know Mr. LaVoy wasn't there, he was just there, occasionally, he wasn't a full-time resident, he had other properties up north, and when he would be there, sometimes a lot of times I would see him mowing the lawn himself. Or an old couple that I think maybe would help him some years past, I haven't seen them recently. In the past year or so, Chet Snavely, the president of the homeowners association, befriended him, and they cleaned the, painted, did some painting, painted the roof. There was he finally got easement so that we could, for the association, that we could buy the side of his property was when you enter Plaza Soleil, where his ficus bushes that were in poor, really in bad shape, all eaten up by whitefly. You could see right into his pool and everything. So it was a terrible first impression for anyone driving into the neighborhood. People were very concerned about property values. So, now that was the history from the side of the Plaza Soleil residence. Now.
What did you do with the hedge, with the white fly and everything? Did Plaza Soleil replace it?
Plaza Soleil made a deal, Chuck made a deal with him that the easement that would become part of the town, part of Plaza Soleil, and we planted clusia bushes.
So Plaza Soleil homeowners took on the responsibility.
So now we maintain that, and that property,
It belongs to
belongs to
the homeowners.
the homeowners.
Mayor, can I jump in? I have to leave, but let me leave a couple of thoughts. I think that clearly the number one objective from back in 2005 was to get the property cleaned up. And it's always been the purpose, and the reason for fines is you have some leverage over the homeowner. And by the way, I mean, who's been damaged are all the residents been living there all these years, and putting up with it. And so I have a problem, frankly, with the debater of what you think it's, what is the adjusted?
The appraisal puts it about $610,000.
Okay, 610, but didn't you adjust it down to 5?
That is the lower adjustment.
Oh, okay, so 610, and you're offering to buy it at what?
So I'm not offering to buy it, I'm
Whoever's buying
just
it,
in the middle,
Ford something.
for 420. The 760 price, I absolutely agree, when it's renovated, that it'd probably be somewhere between 750 to 800.
But that beta spread is big, and so I think 20,000 to the town is too little. And I just think that, I'm not so interested in the town collecting the money as much as sending a message to people that you can't be that inconsiderate of all those, and frankly, I'm not the descendants of this gentleman. I mean, they've never had skin in the game. They haven't suffered all this, and so I just think the 20,000 is inadequate. Having said that, I think we need a solution that gets us to a cleanup sooner rather than later. So that's one thing you're doing, and I would encourage the buyer to be a little more flexible in their willingness. That's my view, and I apologize, but I will miss a plane that I'm supposed to catch at 12:30.
Well, if I could address it very quickly, because I want you to hear my position on
okay,
this,
good.
before you
Oh,
leave.
yeah, please.
I think this is one of the most egregious examples of a resident totally ignoring code requirements, not just to the detriment of the town, but more importantly to the quiet enjoyment of the residents in Plaza Soleil. And not doing it for just a period of months or a year, but over a decade and a half, more than that. An outrageous example requiring the town to enforce its code with multiple magistrate hearings at our cost and expense, with little impact on the aesthetics of his home in Plaza Soleil. I agree with you, that's why I wanted you to sit here. I believe that this proposal of $20,000, frankly, I don't know that you would come up with a proposal that would be acceptable to us, that would still preserve the interest of whoever is interested in purchasing this property. that's the appropriate way of handling this problem. And it will send a message out to other people not to do this sort of thing.
Well, let me ask you this question, how, excuse me, how long would that take?
I mean, a foreclosure action would be about a year.
So, it'd be 2 years probably before you had a new house. I mean, that would be my own.
Yeah, you gotta serve everybody, you know who the heirs at law are, we know who they are, town did its own title commitment, and heir search and all its background work in addition to, you know, whatever's going on the preliminary real estate transaction side of the estate, so, I mean, you gotta file it, you have the case, like any foreclosure action, like with a mortgage for all the lay people, and then, schedule your hearings, there could be some defenses or not, and then, by the time it cycles through, either, you know, 10 to 12 months, when the town's pulling its own demolition permit, which towns do have to pull their own permits, and then, you know, then it's raised.
Yeah, we think the defenses would not survive. The town would prevail. Cost of demolition probably in the neighborhood of between $20,000 and $25,000. It would be seeded and irrigated. And what we want there is to ensure that a home is built that is very attractive to Plaza Soleil. Frankly, I'm not as impressed by the renovation proposal as I am by a new home there. You see this home as soon as you come into Plaza Soleil. It's been an eyesore forever. This is a way of improving that which Plaza Soleil has suffered from for a decade and a half at what I believe would be minimal cost to the town. So I propose that we do not negotiate the number, but rather foreclose on this property.
Philosophically, I don't disagree. I guess the only caveat I would ask is that the residents of Plaza Soleil Association give some input on this because, and then maybe I'm kidding myself because this other proposal might be 2 years before anything gets done anyway, so.
I can't see anyone rebuilding that house. I haven't been inside, but from what I've heard, the ceiling is broken, you know, it's down and
It's got to be
it's in really bad shape. I mean, in today's world, I don't see, from what I know of developers, someone redoing, I mean, unless they give up one wall, you know, that's dirty.
What was
And
the,
then rebuild everything, it's gonna, there's not much I think you can do with it.
what was the, Trey, what was the lot value on the appraisal?
Thanks, Paul.
I realize how,
I
was it
think-
broken down?
Yeah, from the Palm Beach County property taxes, they have it just the lot value, it's just a little under 400, I think it's 391 or
Right,
something,
which
and that's just
Median
very
price,
conservative.
what we call the 33483, 33444 lot, it's like a median.
And
price.
it's a half an acre, so it's a larger lot of what you have over there.
And bear in mind that our lien right is not just limited to this property, but these heirs have an additional property. I believe you said it's up north somewhere.
Yes, sir.
That would be subject to our lien. So, in terms of negotiating and resolving this matter in the best interests of the town and our residents, as well as the heirs, quite frankly, I think could be accomplished quicker than you would think. This town has never hesitated to advance its legal rights, and should it include properties up in the Northeast, we would take those steps, in my opinion.
I agree with Scott wholeheartedly. I mean, I think the residents of Plaza Soleil would so much benefit over a brand new house if they even had to wait a year. Because you put up these hedges already, what's another year? It's going to look so much nicer than a renovated house that's deteriorated for years.
That's what I see happening.
But I
no
mean, I'd
matter
like to
who
hear from
retains the
Plaza
property.
Soleil too,
Yeah.
but I just think
I
it'd
think-
benefit you so much more to have a brand new house there.
You know, from what I understand, the condition of the house, I can't see any renovation. I see that they're gonna take it down and use the lot and build new, so no matter who ends up
Yeah.
with it.
It's been such a problem to the town for so long. I mean, I agree with you. I mean, you can't let that go on because it's the people in Plaza Soleil and their property values. To have a house like that right in front.
I think Dennis Honor, the one that left, I think that was one, living out across the street from him and how he's devaluing his property.
No, it's been a terrible situation for so many years. So, that's my input.
The one thing that I was gonna say, and I completely respect, I'll, back off, here in just a minute, but there would be a new roof going on, there'd be new windows, I mean, it would be renovated to, comparable to the rest of the community. I would say that it would actually probably be better than a chunk of the homes that could use some updating, over there. Certainly wouldn't be the largest home in the community, but would provide for, with the lot, it would provide for some nice opportunity. I come here today, the 20,000, I understand, Mayor, that that's not gonna get there. I also understand that, the kind of turmoil that the property has dragged everybody surrounding it and through the town, and waste of time. But, I certainly would encourage any, offer or even anything in the regards of a proposal back to them where, it had to be listed on MLS so you could see what the true value is, because then you're opening it up to the actual market. And then a percentage or, however you work that would be a way to kind of speed the process and achieve everybody's goals at one time.
Yeah, quite frankly, the offer of 20,000 shows a lack of seriousness and encourages further delay in this process, to be quite honest with you.
I understand.
And this has been going on behind the scenes as well for some period of time. So I view the Oceano Properties as probably a company with whom we would not be able to reach an agreement.
Okay.
So my position stands on how we should move forward with this property. I guess we should give consensus either in favor of that or not. So the option is we foreclose on this property, or we negotiate through Mr. Mazur with Oceano Properties.
Well, Trey, what our remedies are basically settle, whatever that may be. Initiate foreclosure proceedings, and maybe we settle during the foreclosure proceedings and get quitclaim deeds or warranty deeds from all the heirs at law to expedite the process. And, then there would be maybe a settlement as opposed to our lien rights to the out-of-state properties. Or number 3, what the mayor suggested as well, is go forward with everything.
Seems we're in a stronger position, no matter what happens, by advancing the foreclosure.
So if we proceed with the foreclosure, we could, they could still make an offer that,
They could.
if it's not firm, it's not a.
They could, but they'd have to become very serious very quickly. So how would you advise us to proceed, Mr. Nazar?
If you are interested in entertaining those things, you would have to authorize the town attorney to file a foreclosure action. So that would be really get the ball rolling, let them know that we're serious, and we can go ahead and at least have that authorization, whether or not we file it on Monday, or if we wait and start to negotiate. That just would need to be a motion that was made, and then I would just ask that you include sort of an umbrella that you would also ask that authorize the town attorney to file any other necessary actions to protect our interest in the lien.
So when we do the foreclosure, you're including his other property too, as we're going forward to collect the lien? That's, I wasn't clear of that.
Well, it's out of state, so it's, it's not as easy as just,
You have to perfect it out of state.
Right. Jones Foster is their town attorney. They do have attorney's license in Massachusetts, so it's not a huge stretch that we would be able to do something like that, but it just takes a little bit more effort.
Okay.
So I think the motion is to authorize the town attorney to proceed with the foreclosure action and any other collateral actions needed to preserve the town's legal rights as to the lien, and then settlement offers that come through during the process, that'll be forwarded to the appropriate parties in the commission.
Second that.
Ms. Taylor?
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. Thank you. Any other items by commissioners?
Mayor, I do have one item that.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot, we had added we changed item 1 to 2775, so number 2 is the oil settlement.
That's right, thank you, Mayor. This is the settlement of case number 2014 CA 011940, that's Oil et al. Versus Gulfstream. This is solely a fee issue, one of the cases that we have as part of the settlement that we made with Mr. Ball in December. He was seeking $36,000 in this case. We have offered and he has accepted a $6,000 settlement. And I would ask the commission move to ratify retroactively that settlement offer. I think this is a good settlement for the town, and I would recommend that you approve it. And I also note that it's a reduction of 83% of the fees that he's seeking in this case.
Any questions, comments? Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Taylor?
Vice Mayor Stanley,
Yes.
Commissioner White,
Yes.
Commissioner Orthwein,
Yes.
Mayor Morgan.
Yes. And now, I'm sorry, any items from other commissioners? If not, thank you all for coming. This meeting is adjourned.